Welcome to the Nutra Narratives podcast. I can't believe it's been a long time since I have seen you at Loma LInda.
I know it's been a while. When did I graduate? June 2011. So yeah, 11 years. No, 10 years.
10
My math
years,
is off.
a whole decade, Chris.
Yes.
Oh, I can't believe this. Amazing. I know that you have done amazing things since you left us, but I want to go back and ask you, what made you decide I really want to go into nutrition?
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I normally only my close friends really know and
Okay.
family like how I got on this path. Um, Originally, I guess the Filipino way is like, hey, become a nurse or a doctor, right? And
You're right.
so,
True.
and so, I was kind of leaning towards the what do you call it, the doctor path, the medical doctor path, because my mom, she phrased it to me this way. Do you want to like clean up everyone? Do you want to deal with this, deal with that? So her complaining led me to believe like, oh, maybe that's not the right career.
I
not to say
see.
not to say that nursing is bad. I'm just saying like how my mom um has shown it to me or talked to me about it. So I was doing that. I guess I was leading my progression there, but I'll tell you, my educational life wasn't great. I'll be honest. So up until like 11th, 12th grade, that's when I became more serious about school because I wasn't uh, led or guided in how to get into a college or some sort. And so I'm telling you all these little bits and pieces and they all connect.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No,
my
please.
educational level wasn't great. That's one. Um, I wasn't, I didn't have a good example of academics in my early life. So, um, my parents, they're divorced. And so I was living with two sets of families, and so it was hard for me. So growing up, I had all these challenges and issues facing me, and what happened over that, I guess my skills in academics wasn't super good, and it was hard for me to study well when I saw my peers like getting A's and all of that stuff. And so I tried when I knew that it was near the end of high school. It's like, oh, I guess college is next because that's what I knew. I didn't know any better. And when I got into college, I was like, oh, well, I'm in college now, and I'm surprisingly they accepted me of how bad my high school GPA was. And
Oh,
so this is not Loma Linda University yet. This was a different school. So I tried to do the sciences, the pre-med major, and it wasn't working out with me because the sciences it didn't click with me. Maybe it was my study habits. Uh, Maybe I didn't have a good influence of peers around me or things like that. And while I did hang out with people who were in the sciences and stuff like that, I couldn't get on the level where they were at. So there was a period of time I did take a year off from college, and my mom was kind of saddened of the fact that like, oh, you're not going to college, and but I had to tell her. I had to tell her what the real deal was. I'm like, I can't get the sciences for the life of me. And you can say that up until this point, I would say that I'm a very late bloomer. Like I'm able to, and you'll know later, but
yeah.
I was able to grasp at grasp at more things than now than I had before. It's kind of sad. I wish I knew better before, and then there you heard of early bloomers.
You know what, Chris? I can
I-
totally relate to you. I feel like I'm a late bloomer. Like everything happens in life later. Like I understand things later. So I'm with you. I'm on the same page.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I it took me a lot of time and hardship to get to where I'm at now, but yeah, the beginning was very rough. It was very turbulent. It was rough. And when I told my mom the decision to not be a doctor, she balled up in tears because it's what she wanted, obviously. But for me, it kind of put a lot of pressure off. It took a lot of courage for me to talk to my mom about it, and it took a lot of pressure off because, one, I knew I wasn't ready. I had to tell myself I wasn't ready for the sciences. I don't know what will. But when I switched over the track, the major, well, my science GPA was pretty bad, and I was realizing, oh, what did I really want in life? What did I really want to do? So going back, I knew my family history was very bad in food, and they died off early. To be honest, they passed away so early, like 50s
Oh,
and
wow.
40s. Like, I'm like, why are they dying so early? I was questioning that,
Yeah.
and
It's good you were questioning it.
yes, I know. So while I was doing that, during that time off, that 1 year off, right? That 1 year off I was doing, um, I was looking at the list of degrees, and I was wondering, okay, if I'm gonna be a professional, what would it be? Of all the schools, I didn't know there was any other schools, to be honest. Uh, I
That's
was
okay.
looking through, I was looking through the, what do you call it? The degrees and the majors in particular schools. Only Loma Linda University, because I lived in this bubble, this small bubble that I had, in back in Loma Linda. And remember, I had no guidance, so I knew what was just close to me. So I was looking online, and I was looking. I thought I was interested in like physical therapy, so I went to physical therapy assistant. I went to the actual, the area department in the School of Allied Health, and talked to the program director. He said, "Oh, you got to do this and this and this and this, right?" And while I was still looking at the degree line and all that stuff, then I said, "Okay, thank you, bye." All right. I went back, right, and I looked at the list of degrees again. I was like, "Huh, nutrition." Um, I was trying to find if it resonated with me. I was like really trying to find out, and that's when I was able to meet the former program director, Dr. Connell.
Yes.
And so I went to Dr. Connell and I talked to him, and I said, what would it take for me to get in here? And he was very, very humble. I'm going to say this, super humble, but yet firm. Humble, firm.
Oh,
That's a characteristic I want to be. So he was very firm, but he was really realistic with me. He's like, okay, I looked at your stuff, your grades and things like that. Chris, you have a lot of work to do. If you want to get into here, at least by next year, I need you to pull these up, like get better. And I don't know, the numbers might be different by the time I talk about it, but I said to myself, okay, because he's the first person to ever tell me like, oh, look at where you're at, you got to do better. Like that was the first time where I was like, oh my gosh, it's like, this is real. And so guess what I did, Gigi?
you went
I
back.
went back to school. I went back to
Oh,
school,
yes.
knowing that I was delayed a year in college. I felt like this delayed time. Like, oh, I'm not on that track where other people are, where they finish school early or on time, right? For me, I felt like, oh, I I'm later than most people. And so I had to tell myself like, it's okay, Chris, you gotta just do what you need to do.
Absolutely. Because you know what? Even though in your mind you were thinking you're doing it later, but it was God's perfect timing for you.
Yes. So yeah, we're gonna play into that. So what happened was,
Mhm.
I was trying. I don't know. At the time, that year before getting into Loma Linda University, I
Yeah.
went to three schools. Three schools the same: La Sierra University, San Bernardino Community College, and Riverside Community College, all at the same time.
Mm.
One was for psychology, the other one was for anatomy and physiology, and the other one was helping raise my GPA. So I took a year of Japanese. I was taking so many other courses, sociology courses, and all of that stuff to help. And that's when I realized, like, wow, if I had done better, I wouldn't be at this spot right now. But I would say I learned a lot from it, like knowing what
There you
hard
go.
work is.
Good,
um,
good.
I know many people
That's
who like
awesome.
it's pretty tough. I would say that if anybody listening to this, it's really, you got to put the effort in. There's
Right.
no if and or buts.
Correct.
And regardless of what you've been through, this is what I learned. Like, you have the control over it. Basically, you have those decisions. And so, yeah.
Wow. It's very admirable that you went back to take all those classes and you did it. And you know what? That in and of itself is encouraging and inspiring to those who are thinking, wow, I need to go back and improve some of those grades and some of those classes. If you were able to do it with God's help, others will be able to. So,
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
I agree, Gigi. And
Mm-hmm.
it took a lot of prayer and effort. I mean, I'm still not without fault, just to be honest. Like, I still have things to work on and things like that. But
We all
I was
do.
very, very blessed to know that I was able to get into the nutrition program, Loma LInda University nutrition program. And it was a big thing for me because that year was so tough. It was so tough. Taking so many courses. I overloaded. I was also taking extracurriculars just to make sure, like, hey, at least something that I can do.
Yeah.
I like singing. I was in a choir. I was able to do some physical activity like tennis and things like that. But
Good.
what mattered at the end was you accepting me. And I didn't know what went into it, but from that point on in the program was a life changer for me. And it's a true blessing. I never forget what do you call this? You're always appreciative of what you got, and I'm always super appreciative of what I experienced at Loma LInda. So
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much for that. That is encouraging and inspiring right there. But you know what? When you came to Loma Linda, and well, even before you came to Loma Linda, you just didn't accept yourself as is. You had that growth mindset that I can change, I can improve, I can do better. And because you took that on, you were able to go so far. And, you know, there are some people who are stuck in a mindset of, I can't change. This is who I am. But you applied yourself and you said, no, no, no. I will put the effort and I will do much better. And whew, that's what we all need in life. You know, that kind of mindset to not be discouraged, but to keep moving forward. And you did that.
yeah, it was tremendous. I would say, at least for my experiences.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's all a divine. For me, it was very blessing. Here's what it was interesting.
Okay.
Talking to Dr. Connell, I was wondering why I remembered that name. Well, back in elementary school, I didn't know our art/computer teacher was Mrs. Connell. And so I
Oh,
asked Dr. Connell, I'm like, do you know a Mrs. Connell? I asked because I was trying to link something. I was really
right?
And this is what he said. He smirked at me. He smirked and smiled and laughed. He said, well, that would be my wife. I was like, oh, okay. And
Aww.
then back in La Sierra, when I had my advisor, his daughter-in-law, Becky Connell, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but
Yeah.
daughter-in-law was my advisor for pre-nutrition.
No way. I did not know that.
I was like, when I finally got in the program, when I look back in time, I'm like, there's no way that coincidence happened at this point. I was like, if God was really tracking me into this particular point in time, then that's some out of
Wow.
right?
That's so
So,
cool.
and here was the final thing. I was
Oh,
all in. I was all in for Loma Linda. I didn't know there was other nutrition schools, to be honest. No other nutrition schools. I just went all in for Loma Linda. It's like I said to God, if this is it, then so be it. If I don't make it, then I don't know what I'll do.
oh,
So I went all in for it, and I was hoping and praying because I was very close to what your requirement was, super close. I didn't know if I made it or not, to be honest. And then when I was walking, what do you call it? Oh, at Summer College when I finished my prereq, I was just walking after I completed the classes. Semester was over for them, and I received a call from Carmen, the former administrator,
yes,
assistant over at in your program,
right.
called me and said, "Chris, did you try to apply to our program?" I was like, "Yeah," and she's like, "Well, congratulations." Over the phone. I'm like, "Why is everybody trying to like delay all this stuff?" I was like, "No way, I got it." And she's like, "Yeah, you got it." I was like, "Oh my gosh." It was such
Wow.
a uh yeah, all the experiences leading up to that point was
Oh, exciting. Exciting. It was meant to be by God's planning and leading and guiding. Could
yeah,
you
there's
imagine?
no way that I could ever like
Yeah.
imagine that.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway, divine timing is very
Yes. I just agree with that so much. God appointed all the different connells in your path to lead you to Loma Linda. And so, Chris, after you graduated, where did you start working? Where did your career take you?
so if anything, I've always liked pathophysiology. That was my main thing. I loved working with diseases and what we can do with it. My primary goal, in I think I did this. I said this in the statement, my personal statement to you guys, that I
Mhm.
wanted to bring the body optimally to 100%, and that was one of my goals. And so I really loved it. And you can see where my the medical side. I love the medical side,
Right.
and um, so I was able to get into to be as a clinical dietitian. I'm in Central California, and in that hospital, I was able to be uh, in the med surg area, a lot of GI stuff, nutrition support, and
Yeah.
things like that. I saw complex cases where you got GI cases plus heavy wounds.
Amazing.
And so, and then I branched out within the hospital system. Like there was like subacute ICU, right? And post stay transitional units to rehab out, things like that. So I saw the good flux of like the surroundings of what a dietitian could do. And I did that for about a year and a half there. And I was very grateful of it. I was very happy that I was able to learn what I learned at school. I was like, oh, look at this. Oh man, there's all these diseases and stuff. Now the patients are in a predicament. I shouldn't say, wow, look at this case in front of them.
No,
But
I
I was
know. I
like,
know exactly what you mean. But it
well,
it was fascinating because what you learned, you were actually able to apply it and
yes.
see it.
Yes, it was quite a bit. And I remember back in the school, oh, we were learning the early phase of ADIME at the time. It was hard for me to do nutritional diagnosis, to be honest. It was really rough. I really had to really think critically when I was in the hospital. Like, okay, okay, and then I understood how the whole note process was. I
Great.
was I was like, oh, okay, well, it's all in one, and
I
so I was
love
like,
it.
okay. So I was able to learned that. I was grateful of the opportunity that I learned with the experience there. Then after that, I
Yeah.
transitioned into long-term care slash rehabs.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, so this is where you get to learn about um, the kitchen processes, tray lines, and how it goes out to the patients. They call them residents to be more comfortable, I would say.
Mhm.
And so I would oversee those processes. And there's this process almost every year called the survey. Now,
Yes.
those are that tested me. I'll be honest with you. There was one I've been through several, like 3 or 4 of them. I would say my first or second one made me feel like I wanted to quit altogether. I'm
Oh,
gonna be
man.
honest with you. And
Oh,
so if anybody doesn't know what surveys are, they oversee processes to make sure the residents are safe, whether it be on the nursing, any parts of administration, as including the nutritional side. And so while I was overseeing all of that, they would question me like, "Oh, how come they didn't sanitize their hands? How come they didn't sanitize the counters?
wow.
What temperature would you want your food at?"
Mm,
And that was pretty interesting. So I liked all the fine detail, the nitty gritties of stuff,
yeah.
but how they present themselves is very like overbearing, I would say, to be honest. But I kept my wits. I kept my wits about it. My preceptor in that time said, well, if you're able to get through these surveys, or like you have experience in this, you could be able to do anything.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you were looking at those temperatures. That's a whole different world of nutrition.
Yes. So nutrition overall is very complex and big. It's not just medical nutrition therapy.
Yeah.
It's beyond the scope of like what you see overall. So everything that we learn in school, it actually comes out of school. Food presentation. I remember it came back to me.
Wow.
Menu planning.
Yeah.
Oh my word. I was like, oh gosh.
You were able to use that at the second job?
Yeah. Because there were things in place where like the tray presentation or even the plate presentation, yeah, what we learned in school, like, oh, there's similar colors, we need to make a variety of colors, we make sure the protein is right, got to make sure that the flavoring and seasonings are correct.
Uh-huh.
And I think, remember the Food for 50 book, that
Right?
book, the seasoning, they wouldn't believe me. The whoever was the kitchen supervisor at the time, there were several that went through there.
Uh-huh.
I said, look, if you're gonna increase your herbs, it's gonna like up the fold of the flavor level, and it's gonna be off. And I didn't say it in that manner, but I said it like, look, it's gonna change the flavor profile, and it will be different than what you expect it to be.
Right.
Like three tablespoons of cinnamon will be all over the place. But they didn't want to. I was trying to like tell them what I have like been taught, because herbs and seasonings really do matter, and how much you put in. So yeah, I was able to utilize a lot of what I learned in school and in my previous job in the hospital experience into this particular area.
Amazing.
Fortunately, I would say in the past 3 or 4 surveys, I was able to have, with the help of preceptors and stuff like that, having a 0 deficiency in a building means a lot.
Oh my, Chris, really? Yeah. Chris, kudos to you and your team.
So there was one, and then able to bring up 1-star building to like that's out of 5 stars to like a 3 or 4.
Wow.
Things like that. So we were able to improve something, and I think that was a good achievement. I was like, okay,
yeah,
it's something that I can be happy about.
Definitely. Yeah. And to be proud of and to feel good about it, that's a huge achievement right there. So I'm so proud of you. That's not easy to do. So Chris, what are you doing now? Are you still there?
Oh, so 2 more things. I actually told my boss, who's at the forefront of supporting dietitians. Her name was Mary Vester before she retired.
Yes. Sorry about that.
It's okay. So before she retired, I was under her wings for that long-term care job. And I told her what I wanted to do, and it was education. And I was kind of going towards that path. And so I took some schooling for that, but COVID ruined my plans for it a bit at this time. But I really like educating. I think at this point in time, I'm at a point where I really like counseling / education. I think that should be a well-rounded thing of what most dietitians should be at, because I know back then, I guess more of the former dietitians would think more of the fix-it style. Like, okay, you tell them, okay, this is what you need, that kind of thing. But now it's more of like, how does the patient, or how will the patient listen to you, and how will they receive your information?
Right.
And you want them at the point where they're able to make that decisions for themselves and be empowered by what their decisions are. And so, yeah, so for me, when I was learning that, doing education, so I stopped school. I was working on a PhD, but that's kind of halted.
Yeah.
But I was doing, what do you call it? Self-development.
Yes.
Because one, I wanted to know how to speak to patients better.
Great.
And two, how can they be motivatedly changed? How can they like inspire themselves? So I was looking for other credentials that we can have. Of course, there's the CDR stuff.
Right.
But I was really looking. The one thing I got was there's the certified health coach. And so I looked at the American Council on Fitness, or the American Council on Exercise, and they had a certified health coach certification. So I studied up for that, and I passed, and I got the credential, and it's accredited.
Awesome.
And I was able to use that. The primary thing is all motivational interviewing.
Right.
And beyond that, I also took counseling certificate course for nutrition from Cornell University.
Awesome.
And under that, I was able to combine a lot of counseling approaches.
Yes.
To the patient. So even though you and I, Gigi, have learned extensively about so much nutrition, it's about how we, what my classes have taught me, to put that gem in their hands and say, hey, what are you going to do with it? You know,
absolutely. Kind of exactly. You are nailing it. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
So my final transition, I'm in DaVita. I'm in DaVita now.
Oh, fabulous. For how long now?
It's been 4 months. Yeah, since my initial hire in May. Yeah, it's been 4 months.
Excellent. So for those who don't know, who are listening, DaVita is an outpatient kidney center, correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So how is that going?
It's cool, I guess. At the same time, it's very, there's a lot going on.
Yes.
It's a lot. I didn't expect it. It really challenges you. I'm going to say this. It really challenges a dietitian because you are at the forefront at one particular facility and everybody depends on you usually. And so it's taking what I existingly know from all my past experiences and put it all here again. But I can say for sure that, yeah, DaVita, to be honest, I didn't know it was big when I got in. Gigi, you may not be aware of this, but the last several months I was out of the job. I wasn't in the job market. Yeah, because COVID, and I had to teach my children when they transitioned to online schooling.
Wow.
So we're like, okay, so what am I gonna do? No one's gonna like babysit the kids,
right?
And so I live in an area where we have no family or friends around us.
Oh,
and so, you know, a lot of people, I do miss Southern California. I'm from there, Southern California, and where I have like immediate family and friends to help. But up here, you're kind of alone. So me and my wife and kids are kind of like secluded here, and we can't reach out to anybody. So I had to take on the role to help as much as I could. So it really, that's why my plans were ruined. A lot of my
I see, got it.
Kind of stopped a little bit.
It's okay. So. Yeah. I mean, it's understandable and it's a bump in the road, but God will continue to lead and guide, but we all have those bumps, but it's completely understandable what you've gone through. Wow,
Right.
Chris, that's not easy to be going through with having to teach your children. And then, I mean, in a way, it was a blessing that you didn't have the job so that you could teach the children, right? And that was amazing in and of itself.
Yeah, it was tough during that time. But now I'm here. I was able to, I was finding jobs, and DVD was actually the one to believe in me.
Okay. Yeah.
They're like, oh, what can you do? You know what how they interviewed me, which is the most interesting thing.
Yeah.
They didn't talk about like my skills as a dietitian. They wanted to know how I interacted as a dietitian.
Oh.
It was really interesting because of their culture.
Yeah.
They have this culture like, oh, they have a sense of like, okay, you want to be part of an organization that have what they call teammates. They want to be part of a team. And so, yeah, they wanted to see how I interacted with a doctor or how I interacted with patients. It's not so much my clinical level skills. It's more like, okay,
wow,
how do I talk to you?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
That's good to know. I'm going to have to pass that on to the students and say, look, this is one way that you get hired, is to be asked your interactions, your rapport with those you serve and those you work with.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Well, I'm really glad that you are there at DaVita, because it really gives you another dimension of work experience as a dietitian. It's adding to your other jobs, and it's just rounding you out as a dietitian.
Yeah, it's quite a, excuse me.
Yeah.
It's been quite an adventure. I think I'm still learning. I'm still learning this new particular role.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people think I'm new, but I say I'm new to DaVita, but not as a dietitian.
You're like, I've been around for a decade.
I could say that a little bit, but I have yet to learn from more of my mentors and my higher ups, like you, Gigi.
Aw, yay.
So
anytime, you can always reach out to me. So Chris, okay, thank you for sharing that. Let's turn to your own personal practices. What are practices that you take on into your health on a regular basis?
Oh, this is a big one. That's a good one. When you gave me the preview, I was like, oh my gosh, I was really thinking about it.
Yeah.
I think the biggest one is adequate protein intake, not an over and abundance of protein intake.
Oh, I like that.
That one really got me, because as I was going through our studies and when I went to the clinical job and in long-term care, I realized how much protein can be degrading in our lives, even though it's a blessing at the same time. So knowing how much protein you need and not being overabundant can help. So I didn't want to ruin my organs for the sake of indulging myself.
Okay.
And I do treat myself once in a while, but I'm gonna say that overabundance of proteins is not my thing. I try to be as adequate as possible.
Okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense and is so good. Nice. Are there two others?
Yes. I've increased my vegetable and my fruit intake. I love fruit, but for vegetable side, I've had to consume more of it. Because of it goes back to what it's so interesting.
Yes.
Because I was teaching at community college. And when I was teaching the GI system and how food impacted that system, I'm like, oh my gosh, I had better practice what I preach.
Good for you. Good for
I told them, like, it's a muscle. You gotta work with it. You gotta work on it. You lose it or you lose it.
Right. Good.
So yes, I've increased that. The last one is I debate between these two, so I'm just gonna
share them both.
I need more water in my life.
Okay. Okay.
So having enough fluids, and water is one of them,
Yeah.
to make sure I stay hydrated. I notice if I don't stay hydrated enough,
Yeah.
my brain kind of skips a beat.
Okay.
Heart.
Yeah. That's a good way of describing it.
And then consistent carbohydrate intake.
Yeah. There you go.
I think those are my mind. I know I said 4, even though you said 3. So.
No, that's fine. It didn't have to be 3. It could definitely be more. So thank you for sharing those. Those are all so important. Those all lead to having a healthy gut. So that's all important, all those elements. So thank you. Thank you so much. So in closing, is there either a Bible verse or a quote that you have been living by to help you get through life? Like, I'm sure there might be some people who are thinking, okay, which direction should I go with in my career? And I'm having all of these difficulties getting to where I want to be. What was helpful for you?
I see. There is one verse that there's many good, I would say, promise verses from God, but this one resonated with me. This is one that I live by.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, throughout this series, I mean, this whole cast, at least on my educational path, how bad it was. This doesn't tell you like the whole series of me, but a little bit.
Yes.
But this is where this is one verse, Jeremiah 29 verse 11. I don't know if you have your Bible, but
yeah, no, I love that verse.
It's from the KJV, King James version. For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. So that's one thing where, at least for me, I had a turbulent life where I didn't know what decisions to make or what path to take and things like that. I can know based on this verse that there is a path and there is a way, and that God will give you that end where you want to be. So as long as you believe in him, of course. So
I love that. That is one of my favorite verses in the Bible. And I also live by that one too. So I'm glad that's one of yours too, that you just absolutely cherish as well. Thank you, Chris. Chris, everything that you've shared has been so inspirational and encouraging. And I just love how since day one, you have always been relying on God to get you through the bumps in the road. And you have always acknowledged him, and you continue to do that. So I am just so pleased to see your growth. I've seen it in the past 10 years, and God continues to lead you and guide you. So may he continue to use you mightily as he already has. Thank you so much for giving your time to share your story.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for bringing me on and inviting me.